I'm Rachel,
I'm Ivy.
and we are Swords and Sapphics, a podcast all about queer media, representation, and women with a capital W.
Hello.
Hello,
Who is joining us today? Because someone is.
someone is joining us today, and that would be Annie Bennet, or Anna Britton, as she's also known. She writes both cozy romance with a paranormal twist and crime fiction under Anna Britton, and we're here for both.
Yes.
Some yeah. So we're talking about Somewhere New today, which is an achillean paranormal romance set in rural Scotland on a little island called Donut. And I just recently read it and I liked it. I loved it. It's very cozy and there's hash browns and goats, all the good things. One character is a witch and the other is a werewolf, and they're very different personalities. And yeah, it's just very nice.
Good.
What do we talk about?
We talk about because the thing is, we're recording really much, very much ahead. So we're gonna skip our catch up now because who knows? We're it's just it's too messy to get into these timeline things.
Yeah, I did have some tea. I put it in the chat a few weeks ago.
Oh.
What is the tea? Right, I wanted to discuss this. I thought this would be interesting to discuss. And somebody has opened a new independent press
Mhm.
in the UK, focusing that wants to focus on male writers to kind of combat toxic masculinity.
Okay. That
To
that
give,
was that was a roller coaster of emotions right now.
yeah, right, because it sounds terrible.
Yeah.
But then the intention is to kind of give men more healthy voices, I
Hmm.
think. That's what it sounds like to me.
Okay.
So, and to encourage more men to read,
Okay.
because at the minute, women are dominating the publishing industry, which is
That's true.
not a bad thing. So, I guess, I guess what I thought was good for them. Men do need to read more and develop more empathy, and books are a great way to do
Mhm.
that. Why can't men just read women's books?
Because they will not ever listen to anybody but themselves. It
Yeah.
will be good like gateway, but let's be
Yeah.
honest, the hard truth is they will not give a fuck about anything a woman has to say unless it's coming from the man first.
Yeah.
I hate that. We can hate it as much as we want, but
Yeah.
that's the truth. Like,
It is. So it is kind of like using the tools that you have,
yeah.
knowing the way that being realistic about the way things are, even if it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
Um, they're called conduit books, and it says they will not seek an adversarial stance, but the emphasis will be on ambitious, funny, political, and cerebral fiction by men that is being passed by.
Mhm.
And apparently they want to feature a lot of marginalized authors. Okay, so the quote is: this new breed of young female authors, spearheaded by Sally Rooney et al., ushered in a renaissance for literary fiction by women, giving rise to a situation where stories by new male authors are often overlooked, with a perception that the male voice is problematic. Hmm.
It's too many big words for my brain to comprehend in that one sentence.
So he's saying because Sally Rooney and others are really pushing like feminist literary fiction right now. He's saying that men narratives are overlooked and there's an immediate assumption that the male voice is problematic.
That's fair. I do have that immediate suspicion, yes.
And who set that system up?
It is because I've read very little amount of men writers because they just don't get it. They cannot just write from someone else's point of view than themselves. They
Yeah,
do not understand what it's like and they don't want to learn. So they put it in their own image and it just doesn't fit.
yeah, I agree. I do find that with cis white men, I just find there's always something lacking. there's something that's not there. I think they're very good at honing their craft as intellectuals, but I don't think that they've been given the tools of empathy that women usually inherently have that allows them to be able to kind of explore characters in a more in a deeper way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like even when you think about like James Patterson and books like that, it's just kind of, it's funny because romance are always described as cliche,
Hmm.
but like there's nothing more cliche to me than like a detective who has a few personal issues on the side who always solves the crime, you know?
Yeah.
He's gritty and rough around the edges.
One thing that comes to mind that I really enjoyed and was written by men is it was fantasy, Kings of the Wild by
Mm.
Nicholas Ames, I want to say. It was two books. The second one actually had a lot of lesbian characters, which was chef's kiss. And I do remember the first because it's about like retired heroes and they're
Mm.
forced to like go back on another journey, right? So they are already like retired, they have families and blah blah. And it was very funny. But like in the first 20 pages, I laughed and I cried because the main character of the group, like the main guy, right? He was saying goodbye to his family and to his little girl, and that just made me cry. It was very emotional. And that did not ever happen to me when I was reading anything written by a man. If I'm not like talking about Rick Riordan, because obviously he's writing for kids, so that's something different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I hope that if they do kind of if they do it, I really hope they'll focus on marginalized voices. And I guess my fear is that if they're trying to interact with the standard traditional white man who is currently not really interested in publishing, that they might not focus on like black voices or trans voices or queer voices in that same segment. And straight white men have had their time. They've had a lot of chances and a lot of time to already do that. He also said these overlooked narratives might address fatherhood, masculinity, working class male experiences, sex relationships, and negotiating the 21st century as a man, precisely the narratives that Conduit hopes to publish. Cook said conversations about toxic masculinity after the second election of Donald Trump and the popular Netflix series Adolescence means that the subject of what young men read has become critically important, which is also true.
Mhm.
And that's another thing, like they there needs to be something away from like this incel culture that's online at the minute, especially like after watching Adolescence, you realize how exposed to that what growing, you know, boys who are coming of age are kind of.
Mhm.
The press is actively looking for a book to launch with preferably a debut novel by a male UK novelist under 35. The press isn't looking to exclude writers of colour or queer, non-binary, and neurodivergent authors. And he says that men have not suddenly stopped reading and writing literary fiction, rather they are simply not being commissioned. It is interesting.
I
I
guess,
don't think he's kind of implying that men are being like marginalized or anything, because that would be silly. Yeah, it's interesting how the turntables, isn't it?
yeah, I think we should do that more often. More many things.
What, reading articles, you mean?
No, turning the tables.
Oh, right. I didn't know what you was on about.
Responding to what you said.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. Um, there's a lot to dissect. I don't know if my brain can handle it all.
Mhm. Yeah. I did see someone on TikTok, some guy complaining on TikTok, like, so many books written by women for women, nothing to read. First of all, that's not true. Second of
Yeah.
all, what have you been reading when we were kids? Like, we had to pick up a books that were there because we wanted to read, and there wasn't anything for us. There's still not many things for many people, like, and they still have to pick up that book if they want to read. Like, it's like, shut the fuck up. You know, that's what I'm saying, really.
It also just implies that men aren't. men are so used to being served everything on a plate that they're not really actively seeking those books
Hmm.
to read.
Yeah.
Whereas like as queer women, we worked hard to find. I mean, we run a blog full of recommendations that we work really hard to find every day. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's an interesting conversation.
Mm. Yeah.
I will really hope that it isn't just adding more standard white men to the table because I think we've had enough of them.
Yeah, I
Like
certainly know.
society isn't made for that anymore. We're progressive. Readers especially are not made to be confined to like traditional restrictions and the way that it's been before. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I'd talk about that
Yeah.
because it was an interesting.
It was. It was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should we get to the interview?
We shall get to the interview. This is Annie Bennet talking about Somewhere New, which is out now.
Enjoy.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself first?
My name's Annie Bennet, and I write sort of cozy romance. My debut came out in November last year, called Something New. Almost forgot then. And it's set on like a fictional Scottish island. And I spend a lot of my time writing. I also spend a lot of time sort of mentoring other writers and doing editing for them, and also walking my dog quite a lot.
Amazing. I didn't know that you was mentoring other writers as well.
Yeah. So it kind of started weirdly during COVID. I worked in a library and we weren't furloughed,
Mhm.
but we obviously couldn't work there. So I kind of had like 7 hours a day where I was like, should be working and I'm not. I feel really weird. So I sort of offered quite a few like free mentoring slots because I was like, I'll just sort of have a go. Like the uptake was amazing and just kind of went from there. And then yeah, just like at some point I was like, oh, I could quit my library job now if I wanted to. And sort of went for that. So yeah, it's really lovely actually.
Cool. Well, tell us a little bit about something new and what inspired you to write it.
So it's a like cozy romance, as I said, and so I have two writery authory names. So I'm Annie Bennett is all my sort of romance niceness, and then Anna Britton I write crime, which feels like a strange like two sides of my personality maybe. Um, and I was on submission to publishers with what would become my crime debut, which is called Shot in the Dark. And anyone that's been on submission, it's just a like horrible time where your brain is constantly like, am I going to get an email? Am I going to get a really nice email? Am I going to get a horrible email? Am I going to like, going to get a weird question mark email? I don't know. And I was Shot in the Dark is a series, so I was like, right, I should write the second in the series because then when I get signed, they'll want the second one, so I should start writing it. And I wrote about I think about 20,000 words of it. And was literally like sitting there typing and like crying because I was like, I'm so miserable. I'm writing a book that I don't even know if anyone wants the first in the series. Why am I doing this? And like, and like, I got I thankfully got offers on that book, but also got passes. And I think it just messes with your brain. Like a thing you really want to be out in the world, you don't know if it will. So I emailed my agent and said, I've really been trying to write the second in the series and I'm just making myself miserable, so I'm going to stop. Um, and I've been reading a lot of Teen Wolf fan fiction
I love it.
on on Archive Roan. And I watched Teen Wolf once, like however old it is, millions of years ago. Um, so when I read the fan fiction, I really like the ones where it's not anything like the program at all.
Yeah.
And I think I read one where it was like set in a mechanic shop or something, and I was like, oh, I could like write one that's like completely different. And so I was like, oh, I'll make them Scottish, and I'll like the like I forget their names now. Like one of them will still be a werewolf, and like one of them won't be, and but then I kind of I really love people who use archive of our own because they were so tolerant of me. They were like, "Oh, I've come for teen wolf fiction, and all I've got is like a Scottish island. What's going on?" Um, I wrote it and put it up on there. Like whenever you finish a chapter, you can put it up, and it was so lovely. Like people were so nice, so encouraging, and it was just exactly what I needed in that time when my other writing was going out into the world, and I was so scared that no one would want it and nothing would happen with it. So it was really nice writing something and being like, ah, like getting that instant feedback of like people were like, like do more, and I was like, okay. And so but Shot in the Dark did sign with a publisher, kind of went off and did that. Um, but I had always been really interested in self-publishing and kind of wanted to explore that, and kind of realized at a certain point that I was like, this is so far deviated from like being a teen wolf thing
Mm.
that I could tweak a few details and it would just not be that anymore. Um, so I did that, edited it, and then sort of off I went with someone new. But I think why I really love it is because it came from a place where I was like really miserable, but brought me so much joy. Like I would sit there for like however long each day writing this thing, and it finally shut off those voices in my head that were going like, oh no, what if this doesn't happen? So it was, I think like I even say it somewhere in the book, maybe in the acknowledgements or something, that it was just like just a really joyful thing to write for me. Like just really happy. And I love writing crime. I love putting that heart on as well, but it's not very joyful. It's quite grim. So I really love having like a thing to come to that's just lovely and like this little island where there's loads of goats and it's really cute.
I love the comments. And
Mm.
I honestly, I am the first defender of fan fiction. I think that's so lovely
Mhm.
that you can kind of find that community. Now
Mm.
I have to ask though, did the like Callum's family fire come from Derek's storyline in Teen Wolf?
So I don't know because so in Callum, I think Callum is Derek.
Yeah.
Yeah, in my
I'm
kind of.
getting the vibes.
Yeah, and I think from my memory of Teen Wolf, Derek is quite angry
Yes.
and quite like I'm so misunderstood, kind of angstiness. Whereas I was kind of like, I don't really want to write that person. I want to write someone who's sad.
Yeah.
Anyone who's lost, even one family member is sad.
Mhm.
That obviously. So I think so. Callum's, I forgot. Did they die in a fire? I forgot that. So here, Callum's family dies in a shipwreck.
Right.
Um, so I think I'd already deviated at that point. So well
Yeah.
done me.
I think I was just thinking of the house, the abandoned
Yeah,
house. I
I
thought
think
it
the house,
was-
like, so in the house in somewhere new is like abandoned
Yeah.
rather than like burnt to the ground. Oh
Ah,
gosh.
that makes sense.
Yeah, but I think it's yeah, I think already I couldn't remember really any details from it. So I was like, hey, we got my own way. But I knew I wanted his family dead, which is a lovely sentiment. But yeah.
What is a man without a dead family
I
after all?
know. Giving them trauma.
Yeah, exactly.
What was it exactly about the genre of cozy fantasy that drew you into it as opposed to like crime?
Um, so I'd say with both of them. I often get like a scene in my head and it kind of runs from there. So with Somewhere New, it starts with Asta on the boat approaching the island and he's like super excited, kind of running away from stuff, but also really excited about what he's going to do on the island. And kind of that scene popped in my head and it kind of ran from there. And I found often with all my books that it's only as I'm writing that I'm like, oh, this is like a cozy fantasy book then. Oh, this is like a gritty crime book then. Cool. Which is like it's fairly obvious quickly. So like with Shot in the Dark, there's someone running through a forest and they get shot. So so it's like it's pretty clear quickly what's going on. But I think yeah, I just kind of had that scene of Asta in my head. Um, and like very quickly was like, I really want him to live in a cute little cabin and like I want there to be like cuddling and crying and bread and I think it did come from a place of like I was finding other writing really hard, so I just wanted something joyful. So I think that's kind of I feel like that comes through on the page. Like at least when I read it back, I'm like I feel like you can feel that I'm like, oh, let's just escape and let's just be happy for a little bit.
Absolutely. Asta and Callum have very distinct personalities. How did you create them, except for the Teen Wolf fan fiction? And what do you love most about each of them? Are you connected to either of them in particular?
Um, I don't know, because it's like dual point of view. I get to write both of them, which is
Mhm.
very lovely. Um, I don't know if I'm
Did
more
you
connected.
find a preference for writing one point of view as opposed to the other?
I don't know, because Asta's really fun and quite
Yeah.
light, I would say. Like has heavy stuff, but also is just just a bit jolly, isn't he? Whereas Callum is much more like maybe a bit more solid and quite sad. I did really like writing both of them. And I think like with like both of them, there's like a bit more of it, like there's an instant attraction, but Callum is, I would say there's probably more of like an insta love kind of element to it, whereas Astrid maybe builds a bit slower. So that was quite fun writing that. So I don't know, I think yeah. And it's funny because writing like I love fan fiction. I'm such a nerd for it all. But I love it when the ones that I love are when they take the character and they maybe take like an element of it or of them and really roll with it themselves. So like um yeah, just like really go with it. And I think maybe that's like with Callum, I was like, right, I want a sad boy. So I'm gonna start with that, but kind of go with it yourself. And then like maybe with Asta in terms of like having ADHD and kind of writing that kind of aspect of like his personality. But they just kind of roll from there. And I don't know about you, but I find as I write, I sort of figure them out and kind of I'm like, that's an Asta thing, that's a Callum thing, and it's quite just lovely, sort of uncovering them as you go, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I will say it's one of the few books I've read with dual point of view in first person where you wouldn't need the like character headings to know who's
Oh, thank
is.
you.
Like you could really tell the difference between Asta's voice and Callum's, which is pretty hard to do.
That's such a compliment. Thank you. And I know how hard it is to do because you read so many books out there, don't you? And you get halfway through a chapter and you think, oh, who am I? Who am I reading right now? And then there's context that helps you, but you're kind of like, oh, okay. But I feel like in particular, Asta's voice is very strong.
Yeah.
Like he's very Asta. Um, so I feel, but they are, and they're just such contrasting characters. There's a lot of things that one of them does that the other one just wouldn't do, and kind of, yeah. But thank you so much. That's so kind.
Do you have any favorites cozy scenes in the book?
Ah, there's lots. So like, there's a lot of hugging in it, and I'm such a hugger. So writing all those scenes, I'm like, oh, when they finally hug, I'm like, oh, so nice. Um, so I think, yeah. Um, and I think like for me, like coziness isn't always necessarily like being super happy. So I think for me, there's some of the cozier scenes where like one of them is really intensely sad, and it's the comfort that they're bringing like to the other. I don't want to say too much because like they don't want to give too many spoilers, but I think the moments, maybe in the moments after there's been something really difficult that's been unpacked is like a really lovely, comforting moment. And like I loved describe it like making up that cabin that Callum lives in the mountains. No one can get to them. Oh, so nice. And, and like like Asta arrives when it's snowing, and like it's just we've got this lovely bathroom, lovely bedroom, and like cozy living room. And it was really nice to kind of write that. And like I bake my own bread a lot, so it's quite nice to sort of I know exactly how that cabin would smell, although it would smell a lot more like goat than my house does.
Yeah.
So which is maybe not a traditional like cozy smell. But there you go. So I feel
I
like I'm
love
not in a specific scene. But I think generally just any time they're in the cabin, I'm like, oh, this is nice now.
my favorites were the hash browns. I think hash
Mm,
browns immediately make something cozier.
mm. I love potatoes. And I toyed with a lot of different things. Because they in Scotland they do like potato pancakes, don't they?
Mm. Yeah.
But I kind of wanted it to be something where whenever they went down into town, they got this thing and brought it home. And I was like, hash browns are just so good. Like, I had some 2 days ago.
I want some.
I know. I almost want them.
So the island it's on is called the Isle of Donut, and
Mm.
it's fictional, right?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
yeah,
making
yeah, yeah.
it up. How did you come up with the tasty sounding name?
Mm.
And does it share any similarities with the isle you live on? Because I didn't make that up either, did I?
No, you didn't know. So I live on the Isle of Wight, which
Yeah.
is like super southern,
Hmm.
like right at the bottom of England. So in one way, it absolutely doesn't, because obviously the
Yeah.
Scottish island would be like way up the top. Um, yeah, maybe it has stuff in common in the terms of like I just know what it's like to live on an island, so I know what it's like to have to get a ferry everywhere. I know what it's like for your weather to maybe be a slightly more extreme. Like it's always windy here. Like like right now the trees are like woo, woo, woo. And it's just it's I think there's a slightly different mentality on islands. Like you're either an islander or you're not. Like you live on the mainland. So it's kind of and we call tourist grockles. Like you kind of have little things like that, don't you, where you're like, oh, it's tourist season. Like, come
Yeah.
on, that's your money. Oh. So I think like there's kind of things like that that come into it. I think coming up with the name, I came up with the island itself because like for a book later in the series, the loch is quite important. So I was like, I really want there to be a loch in the middle. Um, and then I kind of want there to be big mountains because I want Callum to live off in the mountains. I want there to be a farm over here and like a little village here. Um, but then I was researching Scottish island names, and I was like, man, coming up with an authentic sounding Scottish island name is hard. Like, and also there's lots of them. Like, so there's a chance I would accidentally choose a real Scottish island name. Um, and then I was like, oh, actually, it'd be quite fun if it had like a silly name because like Asta couldn't say the name. So I think it was literally just like because I drew a map of the island so that I could keep track of where everything was, which was a masterpiece of artwork. And I was like, oh, that actually looks a bit like a donut. And I was like, yes, there we go. That works.
Really good. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. So it sort of just came from not wanting to. It's hard, isn't it? Jenny Colgan, who she writes a lot of Scottish sort of island fiction, and she makes up names sometimes. But I'm like, but you can get away with it when you're Jenny Colgan. Like,
Yeah.
like I probably need to like hedge it a bit more.
So Callum is it's not a spoiler, is it, that Callum's a wolf and Asta's a witch?
I don't think so because it's on the
Oh,
cover, like kind of
okay.
a bit.
Are there any other supernatural beings you'd like to explore in future books?
So, there's more werewolves in the whole series. So in my head, it's a 4 book series. I actually this morning finished a little novella that will be like a little septi thing, which I got about halfway through and realized like there's no supernatural beings in this. So I was like, oh, and then I was like, well, there's other people on the island. They're not all awesome.
Yeah.
So I was like, it's fine, it's fine. It's like self-publishing, there's no rules. Woo. So Yeah, so there's none in that. But yeah, so there's more werewolves, and then in book three, there's going to be like a bear shifter.
Mhm.
Um, so that'll be quite
Mm.
fun. And he's lovely. Um, um, but I think in terms of this series, it's kind of predominantly like werewolves and witches. Um, but I think like for me, what they are, like the magicalness, is not. I didn't want it to be like a major plot point kind of thing. So like they are a werewolf and they are a witch, but it doesn't. I don't know. It's not. It's they're not romantasy stories where it's like the fate of all werewolves depends on Callum doing something. It's just he is a werewolf, and so he's really strong and faster, and sometimes it's makes him a bit wolfy, rather than it kind of being this like epic thing. But yeah, I've got vague plans in my head for other things, but I don't. Yeah, I wouldn't say too much about them because I'm one of those terrible people that if I say too much about an idea before I write it down, I then get bored of it and then kind of don't go for it. So yeah.
Beautiful. You sort of mentioned it at the beginning, but what exactly about self-publishing? Like, what was the reason that you decided to self-publish this book, especially?
Mm. Well, so I've always loved self-publishing. I feel like it's a real like equalizer,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. In terms of like I also love traditional publishing. It feels quite odd because they are quite different and in some ways not opposed, but they're very different. But traditional publishing, there's like a lot of gatekeeping. So you need to get an agent, you need to get a publisher, you need to have Waterstones buy into your book and want to stock it. Like it's all quite like you get over a hurdle, there's another hurdle.
Hmm.
Whereas what I quite like about self-publishing is if you put the work in and you make sure you get a good cover, you make sure you edit it really well, you write the best story you can, that actually stories can get out into the world that otherwise wouldn't because they're not commercially viable or a publisher has another book on their list that's very similar or whatever else. So I think I really love the kind of freedom of it and the kind of anyone can join in. It's not this kind of closed club, like come be part of it. And I sort of love that. And I am I love running my own business. I love writing. I love I very much like being alone and quite autonomous and independent. So self-publishing appeals in that way because I was like, I get to choose everything. Like
Mhm.
that's very, very fun.
Yeah.
Um, so I loved designing my cover. I loved working with a formatter and like making sure all the pages looked how I wanted them
Mhm.
to. Like, yeah, just kind of loved, just really loved doing stuff myself.
Including
Just
choosing
being
a
very,
new,
very independent.
yeah, sorry, including choosing
Sorry?
a new pen name for that. So,
Yeah, yeah,
what was
yeah.
the
So
process? So why did you even decide that, and what was the process behind that? Because it's quite similar to your name, but still
it's
different.
similar enough that
Yes.
I hopefully remember them both. Is my main thing because I was like, if I make it too different, I'll forget one of them.
Mhm.
And because I'm quite stupid. So I was kind of like, I I talked to my agent about it actually because I floated the idea of taking somewhere new to publishers. I floated it in the sense that I said, I really want to self-publish this. If you absolutely think that someone will jump on it tomorrow,
Mhm.
I'll take it to publishers. But if not, if it's going to take years, because
Mhm.
it does just take years to do traditional stuff, I was like, I'm not interested. I want this book out this year. And I guess that's another reason I love self-publishing so much quicker,
Mhm.
Yeah.
so much less like stuff, gumph. So so I was like, yeah. So I talked to my agent about it, and she said that's fine. Self-publish. Do not do it under your name because it will just cause loads of brand confusion.
Mhm.
And it's the weird thing of when you become published, your name becomes like this brand. So Anna Britton is now synonymous with police procedural crime thriller kind of stuff,
Mhm.
which I find hilarious because I'm like just a numpty and I just post pictures of my dog all the time and ice cream and
Mhm.
all that kind of stuff. It's not very crimey, but that's kind of what that name means. So to try and then publish romance under that name, it's just not even an umbrella that works.
Mm.
Like if I moved into cozy crime, I could keep Anna Britton because it's vaguely murdery, isn't it? But I switched that. My like family all call me Annie. So I was like, that's okay. That's a name I'll respond to if someone says it.
Yeah.
And then I love Pride and Prejudice. It's like my favorite thing. So I was like, I can sneak in as like a Bennet sister. That would be so cool. So that's why it's not a double T as well. It's
Mm.
just a single T, which is a slightly unusual spelling, but that's their spelling, the Bennets in Pride and Prejudice. So I was like, I'll sneak in as little Bennet sister. But
Brilliant.
yeah, that's where it came from.
Did you think about writing a cozy mystery?
Mm, so I have. Yeah. It's set in a library. Um, it's one that my agent um we're working on lots of different crime stories at the moment. Thinking about like sort of I love the Martin and Stern series I'm working on, but I'd kind of like to do some other stuff as well. So we're kind of looking at lots of different stories that I've written. And she does like it. It needs work because I decided as part of it to have what is it called with like Fleabag where she talks to the camera.
Oh, the
Oh,
breaking the
like
fourth
breaking the
wall.
fourth wall.
Yes, yes. So I decided to do that. So the main character, she talks to the writer in brackets every now and again, and occasionally has like an aside where she's like, "Hey, I really want to tell you about this thing. I'm going to talk to you for a while," um, which I is really fun to write. But my agent was like, "This isn't quite working yet. I'm getting a bit confused. Some sentences there's like three brackets," and I was like, "Yeah, but that's really cool." She was like, "Yes, it is cool, but doesn't work." I was like, "Fine." So I think it needs some work, but it's funny that like the coziness maybe stretches across the two pen names, but I think just like romance and crime just need like I just have to keep them completely separate. Yeah.
Um, and you did just announce a new book in the Martin and Stern series. Oh, wait, no, sorry, scratch that because first of all, you introduced a new love interest at the end of the epilogue from a different point of view. Kit
Yes.
and the Kit and what's his friend's name?
Lucas. Sorry, I forgot as well. I was like, who is he?
Yes. So can you hint to us a little bit about maybe when and what and how the next book will
Mm.
look like?
So Lucas is Asta's best friend. So we've met him like a little bit in Somewhere New. His story and Kit's story is becoming new. Um, so basically, Asta like bullies Lucas into coming to the island with him. So he kind of sets the island vet quits, and Lucas is a vet, so he can come across and fill that role. He doesn't actually apply for the job or anything. Asta does that all for him, really kindly. He kind of like strong arms him into coming. But basically, Lucas is like he's so lovely and he loves Asta so much that he's like, well, if I'm going to live in London without you or live on a weird remote island with you, that's what I'm always going to choose. And I think one of the things I love about the story is that Kit and Lucas are like end goals. Like we want them to be together. But the friendship between Lucas and Asta was like, oh, I loved writing that because they just love each other so much. Like honestly, from the moment that like Asta stole some of Lucas's like cookie in like I think they were like 5 years old. Like that's been it. Like they are it for each other and they love each other so deeply. So yeah, so it's again really lovely book to write. Like it's got like it's called demisexual like rep in there. So Lucas is like kind of struggling with sort of his sexuality and kind of doesn't he's never really felt attracted to someone. He doesn't really know why, and he kind of knows that he could, but doesn't just thinks there's something wrong with him, which I think is an experience a lot of asexual people can kind of relate to. So I think, yeah, it's been a lovely, lovely book to write. Yeah.
I can't wait. And do you have a planned release time?
I
Any time?
do. So yeah, I think October is feeling like it's manageable.
I'm excited.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so I wanted to ask about Martin and Stern before before I
Okay.
got distracted. So you've just announced the new book, the third book in the series. What can you tell
Mhm.
us about that?
Some stuff. So it's called Left in the Ashes. And it's all about a fire in like a cottage. I did like the main family that sort of something happens on their land in book one are called the Dunlows. So it's on their land again. And there's a fire, like it's awful, like not great. But then we find out that there was someone in the building when it was set on fire. So it's kind of the mystery of like who is that person, and then like who set the place on fire? Did they know that they were in there? Did they not? Like kind of because there's been a few arsons in and around Southampton and New Forest like sort of recently, but none of them have been fatal fires. So it's kind of, yeah, like what's going on? Did they mean to kill them? Did they not? Kind of, yeah. So that's, yeah, it's very, very jolly.
Do you find it difficult to kind of go for long periods writing crime? I
Oh, I
couldn't
do.
really.
Yeah. I kind of need the romance as a break. And I think particularly with Left in the Ashes. So Gabe, who's the main detective, she's got PTSD. And through the series, it's kind of been more like realized as it goes on. And this one in particular, there's two crimes. There's the arson, and then there's an investigation to find a serial killer, and it's the same serial killer who killed Gabe's brother. So
Oh.
it's kind of basically from I think there's one scene at the start where Gabe's okay and she's like, "Oh, we're going to a fire, like this is fine." And then immediately she is not okay for
Mm.
like the 5 days we're with her, and like very not okay. So that was really hard to write because like I was drawing on quite a lot of my own experience, but also like it's just like it's just sort of quite grim again and again. And like I thought like one of the things I've put in there is like interviews from when Gabe was younger and when her brother like was missing, and kind of, and so that was like, really hard to write. So I sort of get to the end of a like draft with a crime book and I'm like flipping heck, that's
Mm.
the things my brain comes up with, this needs to stop for a while. I need to write coziness and jolly niceness. So yeah, I love flitting back and forth because it does just give me a little brain break.
And I'm curious, would you ever set a crime on like the Isle of Wight? Not Man. I get confused between the Isle of Wight and Isle of Man. But it must be like I can't think of many that are set on like one of the isles around the UK. It's usually
Yeah,
city.
it's an interesting one. When we wrote, or when I wrote Shot in the Dark, it didn't have a setting. And
Hmm.
one of the first things when I signed with my agent that she said was that like we need to give it a setting. Crime books need to be set somewhere. People really care about that. Um, so I was like, fine. So one of the things she suggested was like, could it be set on the Isle of Wight? And I was like, no, because I need a mixture of city and rural. And the
Mm.
Isle of Wight just doesn't have the big anonymous kind of ness that I'm looking for. Um, so then we toyed with like Sheffield as well because I love Sheffield. But then kind of settled on New Forest and Southampton. One thing I'd love to do, so I'm signed for 3 books, hoping to write 2 more in the series. And I'd love to set number 4 on the island. So my husband, my uncle, not the same thing. Um, he's an ex-police officer, so I talk a lot of things through with him. And I was sort of saying to him, when's a time when plausibly like detectives from somewhere else would be brought in to help with a crime? And he was like, well, if there's like a major, ridiculous crime, but also Christmas,
Mm.
because lots of people will be like kind of on call. Um, So if you had a couple of people go off on holiday and then maybe the person on call has got the flu or like whatever, they would then have to, if something major happens, they then have to call in people from elsewhere. So I was like, so I'd love to write a Christmas time Isle of Wight
Ooh.
murdery thing. But really funny. I went kayaking with my friend's little girl. Little girl, she's like 12, 13. Um, and we kayaked, there's like this bay, and you can kayak out and around and get to this other bay that you can't get to on foot. You can only get to it by kayaking or swimming, or I guess throwing yourself off the cliff. So we kind of, I was looking at this bay and I almost said to her, I'm going to murder someone over there.
No,
And I,
no.
oh no. When you're out on a kayak with a child, you shouldn't start talking about murder. That's not okay. And sort of caught myself in time, but like it's so funny because in my head that's quite a like,
Yeah.
oh, that's my next story. I
That's
was like, no,
hilarious.
no, that's not okay to say that.
And the last thing before we go, we always ask our guests what they're enjoying at the minute. So, is there any book, TV show, podcast, anything that you would li like to give a little shout out about?
Yeah. So lots of things. So at the moment, I know you guys play games quite a lot as well. So I was like, I can talk about a game. I love Sims 4.
We love Sims 4. Our
Um,
entire first episode that we recorded was just about what's going on in our Sims lives.
Really? Oh, I love it so much.
Yeah.
And I find it really like just quite like meditative maybe. Like so I've got my sim and he really likes gardening. So he
Oh.
does that a lot. And like baking. Like essentially I just yeah, live out things that I like. And I like every time he earns enough money I move his house and kind of he has a nice new house and um like I don't yeah, I don't buy any add-ons or anything. I'm just very like just really like plodding along in
Mm,
kind of the only add-on I'd consider is the pets one.
yes,
Um,
it's a good
just
one.
because I sort of want a dog as well.
Yeah.
But yes, I'm loving that. And we've just watched on Netflix 4 seasons.
Oh, yes.
So
Mm.
it's a remake of a film by I can't remember his name. He's from MASH. Alan, maybe something. But it's a remake of this kind of old film, and it's got Tina Fey in it. It's got Steve Carell in it.
Wow. Yes.
It's got an amazing cast. Like it's ridiculous. And it's 8 episodes, so two spring, two summer. And it's basically these three couples that three people from the couples all went to kind of college together and then their partners. But one of the couples breaks up and they're like in their 50s, 60s. So
Mm.
it's kind of this like, whoa, when someone breaks up when you're like that, oh, then your friendships are kind of based on all being together. And the kind of like, yeah, I loved it. And it was kind of like very snapshotty because it was like 2 episodes from one season, two from so I love that. And I've just started reading the Saint of Steel series from T. Kingfisher.
Mm.
So they're kind of like, I would say they're cozy because I like them. But they're kind of the first one, it's got like paladins in, which are the kind of like knights kind of thing. But their god died, and it's kind of, and they died a few years ago, but it's kind of how it's affected them because they had like direct communication with the god. And then it's kind of like, oh, we're all alone now. Like,
Mm.
and it's kind of he to try and keep calm, he knits. And I'm like, that is so cute. Just always knitting socks for all these other little
Oh.
paladin chums. And it's like it's kind of dark, like there's like severed heads and like they kind of go a bit berserker sometimes and stuff like that. But I think like it's also like quite love story and like quite cute. And there's 4 in the series. So I've read the first 2 and I'm really trying to like eke them out of it.
Yeah.
Because I am terrible for like I'll find a new series and be like,
Yeah.
but, but
Yeah.
and also there's a new Ali Hazelwood coming out this week, so I'll go a bit feral, so I'll immediately read that and then be really annoyed at myself for reading it so quickly.
Is it the second Bride book that's coming out soon?
No, no, no.
Oh,
So I
I'm
think
really
that's
excited
coming
for
out.
that.
I know, I'm so excited for that. Oh my gosh. I think I genuinely, I don't know what it is about her writing, even the ones that I've not loved that much. So I didn't love Not in Love. That I just didn't click with that quite as much.
Yeah.
And I know loads of people did. Like that's good. But like I like her when she's been quite sciencey and stuff. But my gosh, when she wrote a werewolf and a vampire, I just went like a bit insane and just genuinely couldn't stop reading it. And I don't like it becomes like for like literally the day that I like devour it, just becomes like my whole life.
Yeah.
And
I was
just
the same. I've only read Love Hypothesis, and that was good. But like
mm.
when I started reading Bride, I was like, oh, this is gonna be my personality for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. I've kind like and I need to do a reread, but I'm kind of like I need to block off some time.
Yeah.
Every single time I get a new book of hers, I know that I will need one day where I can just sit and just won't do anything else because otherwise I won't be able to function. Like there's no way
Yeah.
my brain can handle anything else.
It's so frustrating when I get one of her books and I'm halfway through another book, so I'm like to wait.
Yeah.
Like I'm like a child. Like I don't want to wait. And also then if I start it and I've got editing clients booked in or I need to do writing, I'm like, why have I got life happening right now?
Yeah.
I need all this to stop. So, but yeah, so I think it's I can't if it's called like problematic summer romance or
Yeah.
something. And it's kind
Oh.
I'm so intrigued by it because it's age gap, which I
Ooh.
think is like very underdone in a commercial fiction like romance market. So I'm like, oh, this is intriguing. Like
And it's
kind of
also brother's best friend.
oh, is it?
It is. It's
Oh,
from
okay.
because they have these two were also or like their siblings were I think in Not in Love actually. It's
Mm.
the sister of the main character from Not in Love.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay. So I'm intrigued now because I'm like, will I think I'll still like it because it's even though it's from that universe. I think the concept of Not in Love was just one that I couldn't connect with very well. For me, like sex can't really exist without emotion and sort of
That makes sense.
connection. So I struggled a bit with the concept of that one, but I'm yeah, so quite excited.
okay, I
I
lied.
don't know if that's come across.
No, I lied because I think it was actually Love on the Brain. Never mind.
Yeah,
I can't remember. I have to reread everything.
reread them all and
Yeah.
then get. And I
Oh
think I think one of my favorites of hers as well was the chess one. Um,
yeah, checkmate.
yeah, check and mate or like, and it's labeled as like teen, I think, or
Yeah.
like,
It's young adult.
and I loved it. I was like, ah, love this. Like, just I want her to write shopping lists and then I can read them. That
Yeah.
would be
Yeah.
I want to
fine.
be Hazelwood when I'm older.
Mm,
I
yeah,
want to
yes.
be
And like, she seems really fun. Like, let's be her best friend.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It was lovely to chat with you. And I loved Somewhere New, like I said.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been lovely to chat to you both.
There we have it. There we have it. Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to add?
I don't think so.
Mm.
I mean, it's very interesting how different Anna's genres are. Like, I can't imagine going from crime to cozy romance.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
maybe if you could write any like left field genre, like completely out of your comfort zone. I think we've had this conversation before though.
Maybe. I think I would be interested to try horror
Yeah.
because it's just like as sort of stretch the muscle because that might has to be difficult when you don't have the opportunity to use like a scary score and a jump scares. Like you really have to work the mind of your own and the readers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I find that like with queer horror books that I've seen around, especially like there's so much work put into having it be like an allegory or a representation of
Mm.
like real things that people experience. It's not as simple as everyone thinks, like just writing a scary guy chasing kids around.
Yeah. My issue is if I think if I tried doing that with like some sort of poltergeist or something, they would fall in love in the end. So,
Mm. Yeah, there is that.
how about you?
Well, after that conversation, I really love reading literary fiction, and I always wish that I was kind of smart enough to be able to have commentary on like the everyday, the way that
Mm,
Sally Rooney and other literary authors do. Again, I would also love to be able to write horror, like very vibey, like twisty, atmospheric
yes,
horror.
yes.
Maybe gothic as
Mm,
well.
yeah.
Gothic. But I feel like I've experimented with a lot in the fantasy genre, and I'm currently writing zombies, so I guess that's kind of weird as it
Mm,
is. I'd just love to be able to write anything, really. Everything and anything.
yeah, yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I experimented with cozy mystery as a ghostwriter, and I would like to go back to that with my like my own creativity in the future.
Mhm. Yeah. I just like to plot it.
Yeah,
To be
I would
honest.
like you to plot it for me as well.
Amazing. There we have it.
I'm no good. I'm not good at plotting. I'm not good at like t plot twists or like making it not obvious who's the killer's gonna be.
But still, like, just like sprinkle little
Yeah.
details throughout the book.
Yeah, I'm not good at being subtle, I think, is what I'm trying to
Oh
say.
yeah, maybe. I don't know actually. Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 Anyway.
Anywho,
Anything else?
um, July. Don't think so. No, it's
Julie.
the middle of summer. We don't be planning much. Possibly an anthology might be in the works, but I don't know if we can be bothered to do that because it's currently May.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of things may
End
change.
of May.
Yeah, the end
Even
of
the
May.
beginning. Yeah. We'll see. We will keep
So,
you all updated.
yeah, so maybe just follow us on social media so that you know things and we don't have to time travel
Yes.
to tell you things.
It's exhausting, this thing, you know.
Can't do it anymore. I'm getting sick of traveling through the vortex. It's exhausting.
Fair. Valid. Valid concern. Well, until next time.
Support women's rights.
But most importantly, support women's wrongs.
I don't have an unless.
Oh, right. I thought we were still doing that because women are not doing any wrongs.
Just support women's wrongs.
We shall see you later, alligator.
In a while, crocodile.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening. You can expect an episode every other Wednesday.
And be sure to expect lots of guests, including authors and queer creators.
While waiting for the episodes, feel free to check out our website, swordsandsuffix.com.
Be sure to submit to our forms if you're a queer creator to be featured on our blog or our monthly release lists.
You can also take part in Swords and Suffix and Scribbles, which is a monthly writing event to help you reach your goals.
And if you're just looking for a community that will be supportive and joyful, you can join our Discord server where most of our writing events take place, but also we just have lots of conversations and lots of fun.
And don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, and TikTok, where you can find us as all kinds of versions of Swords and Suffix.